I want to start with the team you cover every day, the Golden State Warriors. They got Steph Curry back in the lineup Monday night after he missed 5 games due to a tailbone injury. Steph, of course, scored 32 in that game, played 30 minutes, but he mentioned he's still feeling discomfort. So how did he look to you watching in person?
Rach, I thought he was going to be fine before the game. Then I watched and he fell a couple times, and it is really still bothering him. I think it's going to linger for at least a few more weeks. If he stays healthy, they're going to the playoffs because he's still the baddest dude on the block. But he is trying to make himself not fall. That is not something you want one of the greatest shooters or the greatest shooter of all time to think about on the floor. So it is absolutely something to watch for down the stretch here.
Hey, the Warriors are a game and a half up on 11th, which means they're barely hanging into the play-in tournament, let alone the playoffs. So if he's limited at all, if he's uncomfortable at all, their margin is razor thin for the rest of the season. I'll tell you what, whether they make the playoffs or not, they are one of the most interesting teams to watch in the NBA over the next 6-8 months, 1 year, because with James Wiseman and the potential of that Minnesota pick and their own pick and Steph Curry at age 33 and Draymond Green over 30, they have the potential to make a big trade at somewhere down the line if they decide to go that route. So we'll see what this season brings, and maybe if they fall out of the playoffs, they become more likely to make that kind of trade. I don't know, but their margin is thinner than I think people realize with the Kings and the Pelicans having surged up the standings.
I don't think it's, as Harley passes me in New York City, I don't think it's radical at all to say that Steph Curry, his health is what the Golden State Warriors playoff chances hinges on. We've seen it before. He talked about how he didn't feel quite right, but Nick Friedell saying that is a bad man right now. If he can score 30 plus and be feeling like he was feeling, that should be a pretty good sign, but the Warriors should be pretty cautious with this. Remember, players say all the time, the one thing you really don't want to be out on the floor is feeling and being aware of your injury. You don't want to be playing like you're protecting yourself, because then you put yourself potentially at more risk to re-injure something in that case. So that's sort of the other razor thin line, as Zach was talking about, that they need to be watching for right now.
Yeah, you always got to watch out for those compensation injuries. And if you want to know how Steph is really feeling, that highlight we just showed where he fell on his butt, we had to blur out what was over his mouth because that was the curse word that he let out in that moment. And it was so loud and so clear, we had to blur it out in a highlight where you didn't even have audio. So that gives you an example, a window into Steph's mindset. Nick, let's talk a little bit more about what Zach was mentioning. How much will these final 20 games impact the Warriors' approach next season? You've got Klay Thompson hopefully coming back, but then a lot of questions in terms of where they draft, who they draft, whether they get Minnesota's pick or not.
Rachel, allow me to jump into the worry crew here because
excellent.
I am very concerned by what I see from the Warriors long term. I still think they're going to the playoffs if Steph stays healthy, but the whole feeling was Klay comes back, you plug him into the lineup, title contender again. I don't believe that at all. I think this Warriors team is still several steps away, even if they bring everybody back next season, including Kelly Oubre. It all hinges to me on James Wiseman. James Wiseman has to take another step down the stretch of the regular season here, and he's got to, after a training camp and hopefully some kind of Vegas summer league, he's got to be a lot better than what we've seen so far. And the expectations are gigantic for him, but he was the number 2 pick coming into a situation where this team really wanted to contend next season. If he can take that leap, they're in good shape, but I think he is a couple years away from being able to be the player they need him to be.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.